Hello and welcome back. If you're new, thanks for stopping by. So, originally I was going to show building this case. And as you see, it's already together because I just wanted to hurry up and get it done. And I figured I'd benchmark some different GPUs in it. And so I did that, but my Elgato HD60 Pro, it kind of died. Now any system I put in, it just locks up the computer. So I don't have a capture card, and I do have the stats, so I'll put those at the end of the video for anyone who's interested. But I thought, I really enjoy building in this case. It's small, compact, but still airy and fun to build in. So let's go through it. First, let me pop off the cover here. There's a little dimple in here, and the glass just pops off. As you can see, hopefully, there's dimple here, that go into the case, and a couple of alignment tabs, and it's an Iago, I don't know. But it's a $32 case on AliExpress. Let's go ahead and fire it up. Oh, that's right. And I built it as an all blacked out case because this is going to be my recording rig. So now I have to wait for another capture card, but that's okay. It's got room for 7 fans. Right now I have 5 in it, 1 at the back exhausting, 2 over here doing the intake, and 2 up top doing an exhaust. And it's quiet, it's easy to get to. You can have 2 more down here. You could have those as intake. I really wouldn't advise having them as exhaust. And if you wanted the RGB fans, do reverse airflow so you don't see the black framework. But overall, I really had a lot of fun building in this case. And how about I show you the back side? Let's just unplug that. Now, hopefully you can see this side does have thumb screws. As you can see, it's ventilated for all the fans, including your power supply. And this isn't sponsored, by the way. I have no sponsors. But here's your power supply. I've got a semi-modular. I would recommend a modular, semi, or full. This plate here not only houses your SSD, but it comes out. So you can run all your cables to the backside of the motherboard, which I have some tucked in here, the fans, and some extra cabling. You could even put your fan controller back there for the RGB if you wanted. But look at how beautiful cable management that is. See if I can give you a little better look. That's not bad for me. I don't have the best cable management at all. Now that we got the beautiful tech stuff out of the way, let's set that there. Now, it'll house my 3070 and still have room to spare. But I wanted to bring in the big boy. This is my Windows 98 build. You see, it's big enough to house a mech. That one, you need a smaller mech. So that's my new scale. Can it house a mech? Well, maybe one of the little ones, because that one's too big. And everybody needs to be able to go by the scale of, will it fit a mech? Yeah, a little one kind of wedged in there, but look at how nice and small that is. It's an MATX case. You can do an ITX build. Let's get this back out of the way. I've currently got a 750 watt power supply in here. And plenty of space, doesn't overheat. This does come off, this front panel, but it's 2 screws here, 2 screws here, and then one at the bottom and one at the top in the back. But there's really no point in taking the glass off. The fans mount on the inside, because on this side there is a lip, a raised lip, and the fans won't sit flush. So I believe it can house a 240 AIO, but I'm not 100% sure. The downside is there's no 3.5-inch bay. So you can't have an actual 3.5-inch hard drive, but my motherboard has an M.2. I could easily put in a physical hard drive if I wanted, or a smarter thing to do would be an SSD. But overall, I really liked this case. It was easy to build in, and it is still available on AliExpress. $32 shipped for this whole thing. The downside is it takes 4 to 6 weeks to get here. So I went ahead and ordered another one, because that's what intelligent people do, is they just buy another one. But yeah, I wanted to share finally a case that I can say, go out, get it, you'll like it, it'll work. It won't support an ATX motherboard, and it won't support a full-sized hard drive, but I think those are caveats that I can live with. So how about we just get into the benchmarks of a 1070, 1070 Ti, and a 2070 in this system, and notice the slight differences. And next week, I will be using that to record building the ultimate Pentium 4. I don't know what else to call it, but you'll see. You'll see my plans. It's going to be quite interesting. So let's flip over to the benchmarks. Okay, if you made it this far, thanks for sticking around. Few things to note. The benchmarks that I did, they were all done on the same campaigns, or in the case of Pal World and Carrick Street, I did the same areas, the same tasks, so that way it was as close to accurate as possible. I didn't start the FPS counter or recording through Eva Tuner until I was in the campaign, and then I would stop the recorder before I exited the campaign, because I noticed the results were heavily skewed through loading screens and all that jazz. I played each one for 30 minutes, 5 times each play, so I could do an average to give you these scores. And Pal World, kind of have to ignore the FPS minimum and the 1% low, because it was me teleporting from one spot to another that was causing that, and I didn't feel like rerunning the tests again. Had I just run from place to place, it probably would have fallen in with the rest of the charts. So let's get into it. As we can see, it's all was done on that system that I showed you earlier. which is a Xeon E5 2650 version 3, which makes it a socket 2011-3. They were all set at 1080p on a 144 hertz monitor and all set to high settings. I want everything to be as equal as possible. It has the same amount of RAM, which is 32 gigs, running on SSD, as the third gen i7 that I built. And Doom came in pretty good. The 1070 and 1070 Ti were pretty close to each other as far as the average frames per second. The 1070 had a little bit better on the minimum and 1%, but I would call that kind of margin of error territory. The 2070 did fall back a little bit, but Doom, from my understanding, is a little bit more CPU intensive than the rest of the games tested. So our limit was obviously the CPU. As far as MechWarrior 5, we can see that the 1070 and 1070 Ti were very similar once again, but the 1070 Ti kind of edged out a little bit. But the 2070 really put forth the effort and was definitely an upgrade, if you want to call it that. As far as Palworld, again, I would pretty much ignore the lows and the 1% low, the minimum. The average frame rate, you can see it's more of a graphical based game, and so it's not as CPU bound as the others, or as Doom, really. And the 2070 really shined here. The 1070 was playable. There was no stutters, no lag. 1070 Ti did a little bit better, but the 2070 really helped out a lot. And last but not least is Kark Street. The results were very similar to each other. The 2070 had a better response to the minimum frames and 1% low, but that game is also kind of heavily CPU bound and heavily GPU bound, as well as you need an SSD to properly play the game. A spinning hard drive is not your friend, and that just shows how intense it is, and the fact that this setup could play the game, play it smoothly on high settings at 1080p. That's kind of impressive. As for recording video, I would have, but my Elgato HD 60 Pro, after having it for 4 years, it died. I didn't have a backup capture card. I've ordered one. We'll see how it works. So, sorry you're stuck with my ugly mug and no build video of the computer because I was in too much of a rush. Next week, however, though, I am building my Pentium 4. All the parts are hush hush. My special plans are hush hush. You're going to find out. It might be a two-part video because there's a lot that I have to do to it, and I have no clue what hurdles I'm going to face. So until next week, thanks for stopping by. Like, comment, please comment. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. I'm 50 subscribers away from hitting that milestone of 500 subscribers. So I guess every one counts now. Thanks. See you next week.